Welcome back, everyone, to OpenLine 2019, and we are talking about elder law. A lot of people may have visited with a loved one, and they're concerned about how are they going to pay for that loved one, a mom or dad, as they age, the high cost of nursing home care, the high cost of care in general. Elder law helps you plan for those things, and we're encouraging people to call in with their questions, their stories. We have Joyce on the line. Hello, Joyce.
Yes.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
I'd like to say hello to Barbara. I used to work with her.
Hey,
it's good to see you. I am actually the person that's over 65, the elderly person. And my question, I wanted to make sure that I was clarifying. I have the Blue Cross Blue Shield Advantage, and I'm trying to verify that she was saying that the deadline for changes or enrollment on that was into March.
Medicare Advantage plans, we are in an open enrollment period through the end of March, which means if you're happy with your Blue Cross Blue Shield plan, the formulary is right for you and you don't need to make any changes, great. But if you're not happy and you need to make a change, you can make a change to a different Advantage plan, or you can go back to traditional Medicare A and B. Don't forget to get your D plan and look for a supplement.
So I'm glad Joyce called in, because that seems like a long time. I mean, here we are. That's a long enrollment window. Is that unusually long?
No.
Okay.
No. Because we have the fall open enrollment for traditional Medicare, which starts about the middle of October and goes to the first part of December. And I don't know, maybe it's just longer because they figure it takes us longer to get started again in the new year, right?
Right. Okay, well, there you go. It is through March, so I'm glad you clarified that. Let's go to Jean. Hello, Jean.
Yes, just a minute.
Hey, Jean.
Okay.
All right, go right ahead. What's on your mind?
I am beginning to have serious health problems. I'm beginning to have serious health problems.
Yes, ma'am.
And I would like to stay in my home as long as possible. And I don't.
You need to turn down your TV. I can come right back to you, but I think, all right, let's take it from what she's saying.
Yeah.
She has serious health problems. She's getting older. She wants to stay in her home.
Right.
She comes into your office. What questions do you ask? What does she need to be thinking about?
Well, I think that where we would start would be, what kinds of things do you need help with? And where do you live? Because care is very local, so we need to know what kind of resources are possible for her. And then we have a list of what she needs help with, what kind of assets do we have to work with, what community are we in, and we start connecting the dots. And that's where our elder care coordinators really come into play. That's another thing about elder law that differentiates one elder law practitioner from another, the holistic model, the fact that we have social workers on staff to help put together a plan for this person. Because again, as part of what we were talking about, care is difficult to navigate. As you get older and start developing some limitations, it becomes even harder to put together.
Absolutely.
Does she have family resources, not necessarily to pay for care, but to help do that legwork for her that we can help coordinate with and put together a plan.
All right, let's see if I can go back to Jean. Jean, did you have any other question?
I'm listening to her, what she's saying. No.
Okay. All right, Jean, thank you. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks.
Let's go to Betty. Hello, Betty. Hold on there. Let's go to Betty. Maybe this
Publications.
Hello, Betty. Is that you?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Go right ahead.
Okay. A few years ago anyway, I looked at one of those senior citizens publications, something that it's like I don't know if it's the Noble Center or what it is.
Or like
you know,
the Senior Resource Guide or the
well,
Council on
Aging. It was the actual, like, it's a regularly published newspaper type thing.
Okay.
But anyway, there was some mention, and again, I can't remember if it was specifically foster care or like a best buddies type situation, but they were looking for, to match basically older people with younger people. But there were 2 or 3 different restrictions or things that you had to meet, and one of them had to do with income. And it was, normally you would think if your income was below a certain level, but this said if your income was above a certain level, you were ineligible. And I was just wondering why that would be.
Oh, I can't imagine. I mean, nationally, there is small amounts of literature and talk about developing these foster care programs for seniors, and I think conceptually that's a great idea. I saw one just the other day pairing specifically millennials with older adults, but I don't think that's a real well-organized program, at least not locally, and if it is, I'm not aware of it, so that might be something that somebody needs to educate me about. But it's not as well organized program as it could be or should be. And
it may be unique to certain institutions, and maybe
exactly.
But that's interesting, and I'm glad you called
and
in.
there's a growing number of single older adults. I mean, people that are on their own trying to navigate this, and I think that'd be perfect for those sorts of people.
Let's go to Ann. Hello, Ann.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call. Yes. I have a comment to make.
Okay.
I do not appreciate Social Security keep telling us we're getting a 2% plus raise, when in essence Medicare takes that away from us. And for the last 3 years, I haven't gotten any raise. And my raise this year minus me $1.
Is it minus $1?
They think we are getting a raise when they turn around and take it out about Medicare.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one
and
of
they're
those
doing
things,
that every year.
It's one of those things that's inexplicable. Why they even bother? I'm sure it makes some accounting sense somewhere in the government, but they give money through Social Security and then take it back in Medicare. And I don't doubt her math on her, on her Social Security.
And she's saying I guess they say they're giving a 2% raise, but
well,
then the money...
they are giving a raise, but you're turning around and paying an increased premium in Medicare, so it's an offset.
All right, thank you for that, and I appreciate that comment. It sounds like you're right on, but maybe more people speak up about that'll make a difference. One thing on our first show of 2019, you said that would be good to talk about New Year's resolutions.
Right. I don't know if you made any New Year's resolutions this year, but I think a lot of people do make New Year's resolutions, and,
yes, they do.
And they tend to revolve around how can I be a better person in the new year, right? Whether it's more organized or healthy. And I think it would be a really good time to talk about, if you do not have an estate plan, that getting that checked off your list of things to do in 2019 would be a great idea, to have an estate plan. If you do have an estate plan, find it, look at it, see if it's greater than 2 years old, it probably needs to be reviewed because of some tax law changes. And there are this is one thing that I do see a good bit of. People that had estate plans done several years ago, they come in and they have some very complicated wills or trusts with these bifurcated trust processes that happen after death. And it was all used and designed at that time for tax purposes. Great planning then, outdated for most people now because of the tax exemptions, or the estate tax level is so high it affects very few people. And so I think it'd be a good time to review that to make sure you don't have an overly complicated will. it's also a good time to look at who your fiduciaries are. And again, fiduciaries are trusted advisors. They are people that you give authority to that's supposed to act for on your benefit, on your behalf. So that's executors of wills, trustees of trust, agents under a power of attorney, making sure that those are all still the right people, that they don't have their own disabilities now that would make them unable to work for you, making sure that there's a successor in place.
And so, okay, there are people, maybe they haven't done this, and you're saying this is something they should do. Sell them on why they should do it. They haven't done it up to now. They're going to be dead. Why do it?
You know, estate planning is often has a focus of how am I going to get my assets to the next generation when I die in an efficient and effective manner. But elder law has a focus of what happens to me and my stuff before I die. Because I tell people all the time, that's really, well, equally important, maybe more important. You know, how are you going to be taken care of, and how are we going to use your assets to take care of you in the way that you would want to be taken care of. I say if you've made it till now without an estate plan or a plan for how you're going to be cared for if you're disabled, you're lucky. So let's not keep pushing your luck. Let's get that in place. And maybe it is things like life insurance to take care of survivors. Maybe you have a younger spouse. Maybe you have a sicker spouse. Caregivers often die before the sick spouse. And you want that life insurance to help continue to fund their lifestyle at your passing. Things like a good reason for estate planning. You have a spouse that may be young enough to remarry if you die first, and you want to make sure you're protecting your children and your children's inheritance, not just trusting that surviving spouse to do the right thing. What if they get married? What if there's other children? How do I protect my children's inheritance? You're not going to begrudge your spouse for getting remarried, but you want to protect your children for their inheritance in the future as well.
And that estate planning, that would be a will, and it would be a will, I guess, that would give the money, set it aside in a trust for a child for when they get to be a certain age.
It could be. Yeah, could be.
That's interesting.
A lot of times, I'm a fan of trust, living trust, because trust can do a lot of things that a will cannot, especially if it's properly executed and funded appropriately. And you can layer up some nuances and some flexibility. And I think Tim says trusts are just a great figment of the legal mind.
Tim Takis.
Yes.
All right, we'll take a break, and we'll talk about wills a little bit.
Sure.
Unless you want to call in, if somebody wants to call in with their certain question, their situation, love to hear from you. There's the number 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.